I dealt with mental illness for most of my high school years. Probably like the beginning of my freshman year kind of was when I started to develop like an eating disorder, which kind of morphed into a bunch of different things over the next year and a half, 2 years. And then eventually I had a period where that was kind of shifted more towards just depression. And then until like 11th grade even, it kind of came back as an eating disorder again. It kind of manifested itself a different way. And I was out of school for a while, and it was kind of just a mess, and it was a lot of stress as to whether I would finish school or not. In a lot of ways, like it's kind of now become, I look back and like my sister's in high school, and I think about all the things I think I missed out on. I think it definitely has changed like a lot of things, like in some ways positive too. I think that some things, like I am a little bit more, I speak up more for myself. I think now I'm more, I guess, tuned into the fact that when people value, I guess, my person and my thoughts, I'm much more like drawn to that, and I'm kind of push out the rest of the people. It's kind of a good thing. For me, it was kind of like it was a really long road, and I think even now, like sometimes I think, a lot of it is just kind of getting through the day, finding like ways to kind of cope with things, which is sometimes like harder than others. But I think a lot of times it's also just kind of dealing with it, just like being in it. There was a time when I got pulled out of school for like a month, and a lot of it was like you were in this environment where you were forced to kind of sit in what you were feeling, and you couldn't, retreat to your own room. And it was kind of good because then it made you really sit and think about what you were going through instead of kind of just ignoring it. It's one of those things that I don't think ever really like 100% goes away, and there are days, and even now, every once in a while something just kind of comes up, and I have this kind of like rush of like back to things that haven't really been a reality for me in a while, especially like, going home for Christmas break and being home at my house for, 5 weeks and being in a place where like a lot of these hard times have happened. And it was just kind of like a strange, like, I think a lot of it's just kind of being focused on like, for me, sometimes I look back and I can't even like piece together how I got from where I was to where I am now. And I think that a lot of it's just kind of being like thankful for that, because when you're in it, it's so hard to just like to cope with it. And it's hard sometimes to hear what people think you should do to cope with it, because they say something and then it makes it worse because you're like, well, that's not possible. Like I can't just, think about something else or do something else because I don't want to do anything else. And it's really just it's like a hard cycle to break, and it takes a long time. People who have not ever experienced a mental illness, even if they're the most like empathetic, nice, understanding person you've ever met, they have a hard time saying the right thing. And it's not even, they're just not aware of what they're saying and how it impacts, because they can't understand it. And in a sense that, there were other people that have gone through like similar things, not even necessarily like the same length duration, intensity, doesn't matter. Like they know that, how deep it is just the struggle. And I think that kind of cluing people in however you can to other things is so important, because one of the hardest things is being the person who's going through like a mental illness and feeling like nobody else gets what you're going through, / they don't know how to respond to you, or they kind of just like push you away. I wanted to do this because I felt like, this is something I've gone through and I've seen. I've had a couple of friends since I've been here that I've met, and they were going through things. And I think the biggest thing for me was like the one girl, I didn't realize, and I was around her a lot, and I felt kind of funny that I didn't pick up on it, even though I had gone through a very similar thing. And it was kind of interesting to me. I think that's, you meet people, and it's kind of like you have almost a connection because you understand each other on that level.